everywhere you look.
Hello, I am Mr. Bryant from Orthfield Middle School, and I love science. And we're here to do a stream study today. This is something we were hoping to do with the students themselves, but unfortunately we can't, so we're going to do it virtually. We're going to be studying what we call macroinvertebrates. Mr. Minerovic, what the heck is a macroinvertebrate?
So a macro means large or long, and invertebrate is something that does not have a backbone. So we're looking for things that you don't need a microscope to see, and they don't have backbones.
So we're going to be looking to see what types of organisms are in the stream for a couple different reasons. Number one, it tells us what type of water quality we have. So we do a bioassessment, which means that we look and see if there are certain critters that really like pollution living in there, then that means that that stream might be a poor quality. Whereas if there's only organisms that prefer clean water, then we can determine that the stream is of better quality.
So we were talking about classification in science class, and most of the things that we're going to catch today are animals. A lot of people don't realize that most insects are animals. So let's hop in the water and catch some critters.
All these teachers brought hats. I got all these bugs coming at me, man. I gotta find a hat. I gotta find a hat.
All right, so when we're looking under the rocks, what we want to do is we want to look and see which way the water is flowing. So since the water's flowing this way, we want to lift the rock up so that the water can kind of clear out and always away from us. We don't know what's under here. So I'm going to take this rock and kind of tip it away from me and look to see what's underneath. And actually under this one here, there's actually a little crayfish. So the way that we get a crayfish swim backwards. So I put the net behind us and hopefully I can scare it right into...
Whoa!
And here,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then we can actually
she got a
crayfish up. Again, it kind of goes backwards. You can see the way that its body is. It's an arthropod.
And you always want to hold it behind the pincher so they can't turn around and get
actually,
you.
this one's ready to shed. Its eyes are pretty white, so this one's going to shed soon, I think. Oh, maybe not. Okay, there we go. Yay!
Sweet.
You say caddisfly larva here? Some of these insects go through a 4-stage life cycle: egg, larva, pupa, adult. Others go through a 3-stage life cycle: egg, nymph, adult.
You gonna touch it? Are you gonna pick it up with your hands?
I can do that. Ouch! Oh no, just kidding.
It's so gross. He's gonna eat it, watch. He's gonna eat it. He's gonna eat it. He's gonna eat it.
Right out of a sci-fi movie there.
Doesn't look any better when it's older either. Hi guys, so I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some of the tools that you can use when you are looking for macroinvertebrates in a stream. So first we have just a regular aquarium net, something that you might have at home if you have your own aquarium. And then we have something called a kick net. Notice that both of these have meshing in them, okay? So they are made to get wet. The bottom of this has meshing as well. So water can obviously sift through it, leaving behind creatures that we find in the water. So let's take a look at what we have in front of us. So we have a bunch of larger rocks. If you want to take a look at what might be hiding under a larger rock, you could use one of two methods. Since these rocks are larger, I'm going to use a kick net. So I'm going to hand this to you. All right, so let's take a look. Here we have a larger rock covered in algae. So I'm going to place the kick net just a little bit in front of it, and I'm going to lift the rock, okay? As Mrs. Koreski said, you want to be away from the rock as you're doing this. You kind of want to step back as you lift the rock. Obviously, most of the creatures are going to move downstream, so you want your net to be placed downstream. So let's take a look at what we have. This is pretty heavy here. Oh, nope, not a good example. Come over to, let's see. We'll try this one. That one needs 2 hands to lift it. Since I don't have a partner working with me, I have 1 hand to lift the rock. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Not sure if we have anything in here. We'll take a look. Oh, we've got a small creature. I'll show you real quick. All right, let's see what this guy is. Looks like a little fish. Okay. No, actually, it is a mayfly nymph. Take a look at it.
We can identify it later with the chart too.
Yes, do you see
Just
the
to be sure.
3 tails on the end? If you look closely, there are 3 tails. So this is an aquatic insect, okay? This insect, when it is an adult, will actually have wings. So it's immature. We're gonna put this guy back in the water because they cannot breathe without being placed in the water. They have gills currently. All right, let's see what else we can find. So how's that water, Mr. Mahmood?
Oh my god, my toes. I gotta feel my toes.
It's pretty cold.
They're done.
So
I don't need feet anymore anyway. But
yeah, cold water. How's that a good thing for catching macros?
it's the worst.
It's bad for us, but for the macros, it's highly oxygenated water, right? Yeah. So pretty cool.
I knew that. I'm going to talk about kicking up some macroinvertebrates too. So when you can't really see what you're doing, you don't know what's going on, you can take one of these larger nets, and what you're going to do, you're going to hold this large net a little bit downstream from the rock that you're looking at. And then I'm just going to take my foot and I'm going to kick up the rock. Now I'm going to do something that I call the shimmy, shimmy, shake, right? I'm going to put my foot in the ground where the rock was. I'm just going to shimmy. I'm going to kick up that dirt. I'm going to let the stream take the invertebrates in. I'm a shake. I'm a shimmy, 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 shake. And now I've got, you see all this cloud of stuff coming in? I bet there's some really cool macroinvertebrates in here as well. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to dump it into my bucket, and then we're gonna look at the stuff in the bucket under the macroscope over there.
So if you don't have a net at home, you can use some household items like a rake, just a simple garden rake, and a bucket. And what you do is, it would work best if you had a partner to help you. One person would man the rake and the other person would have the bucket downstream. But you could even do it yourself. You just want to take the rake and stir up the bottom. And then once you got it stirred up, you can take your bucket downstream and use it to catch whatever comes out from underneath the rocks.
And even if you don't have a bucket at home, you can take a milk gallon jug and cut that in half and just cut off the top and use that as your bucket. Anything you can do to be creative.
Yep.
So here's an example of a worm. This is actually a leech. It is parasitic in that it will attach to other organisms to feed off of. And you can actually see, I'm going to try to get you to see its sucky mouth. There we go. So it can actually hang on there. And again, that's a leech.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there we go.
I have a water penny.
Oh, let's see.
So here is something that we call a water penny. But if you take a look and you flip this creature over, I'll do that. You usually find these on the bottom of rocks when you flip them. It is also a macroinvertebrate, and this little creature turns into a beetle. Okay.
What do you guys got?
This is a salamander. This is the early stage of a northern two-line salamander. They live in water at this stage and they breathe through gills that are external on the sides of their face, and then they eventually become terrestrial.
Cool. How do you find one of those, Mr. Sobchak?
They live under rocks. A lot of times they are found along the stream banks under rocks on the banks of the stream.
Notice that they're camouflaged, so you have to look carefully because they blend in with their surroundings. Okay, so I flipped this over. I don't know if they're still on here, but if we take a look at this rock, there were all kinds of creatures hanging on, embedded in here. So we have some water pennies here. Okay, a little tricky to see them because again, they're camouflaged as well. I saw some stone flies. Don't know if they escaped in my collection of this rock, but they were on here too. So as you flip over a rock, you want to look carefully because, oh, here it is. Creatures kind of blend in. Okay? Do you see that little guy?
Go.
Okay, so when you're catching macroinvertebrates, you definitely want to have a container of water on the side for you to put your specimens in. One of the things that you want to be careful of, and my example here kind of shows both, is you really do not want your creatures in direct sunlight. You don't want them in direct sunlight because the sun will heat up the water and change the temperature and actually make it harder for these creatures to breathe. So as you can see, the crayfish here is over in the shade. And that stonefly, if we take a look at that stonefly, he's a pretty cool one. He too is now in the shade. Okay, so we see here a stonefly, this guy right here. If you take a look at him, notice that he has 6 legs and he has 2 tails, okay? The 6 legs, when we talk about classification and creature identification, places this particular creature in the class Insecta. So this is an insect, okay? And we'll talk more about what this creature changes into as it becomes an adult.
What's the phylum?
It is in the phylum, actually this one I don't know.
Arthropoda.
Oh, phylum Arthropoda. I thought you were asking about the class. Class Insecta, what's the next part? Order. I don't know its order. I didn't know its phylum.
Order either.
So I'm not sure of this guy's order. Well, I know most insect orders if you ask me that. This guy, I don't really know his order. But here we go. So this creature too, as Mr. Mamu was just talking about, this creature has more legs, I guess you could say that, with his pinchers in the front. This creature is not an insect, but this creature has insect characteristics. So both the stonefly and the crayfish are both in the, so we have the kingdom Animalia, the phylum
Arthropoda.
Okay?
Arthro means joint, pod means foot.
Correct. So these creatures have what we commonly call a shell or an exoskeleton, okay, and jointed appendages. So, but they're not.
Do you know
in
what class?
The same.
You know what class the crayfish is?
No, what
That's
is
a
it?
crustacean.
Yeah, crustacean.
So the same category as lobsters and shrimps and crabs. You got the pinchers on there. You got the exoskeleton. That's a crustacean.
You got their little swimmerettes in the back.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
By far the least.
So we got some cool stuff here. What you're looking at, this big lump right here, that's a bunch of toad eggs. It's a bunch of toad eggs, and they're all gonna hatch into little tadpoles. It's pretty wild. But if you're like me and you're not exactly sure what some of these things are, I mean, some of these science teachers, they really study their invertebrates. I don't. These things creep me out. But if you don't know what you're talking about, we have these handy dandy little keys for you. So it says a key to macroinvertebrate life, and you can see like what you're going to do is you're going to look at the creature, and then you're going to see if you can identify it based on its characteristics, based on its external features out here. And that's basically what we do. So not all science teachers have all the answers.
Sometimes we look things up too.
Yeah, sometimes we're wrong about things.
Look at how this is just kind of hanging
Brian
on.
was wrong earlier. I want to correct that error. It was a it was a crane fly, not a caddis fly.
Yes, crane fly larva.
So now I'll be able to sleep at night, Mr. Mahmood, that I corrected my error.
They all look so similar to me.
So crane fly, when it is in its adult form, is something we commonly call a giant mosquito, but it's actually not a mosquito. Those crane flies that I learned from the video, that crane flies actually eat mosquitoes and other, I guess, pesky insects. So please don't kill those large creatures that you think are giant mosquitoes. They do not bite you. They are not harmful. They are actually helpful creatures. And this is the immature version of that creature.
Sometimes things are a little too fast for me to identify. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some water, scoop it out, and pour this little guy into here. Now I have it isolated. So now I can kind of look at its features. Actually, I'm going to get this back on the spoon. Give it a little bit of water. And now I can like really look closely and see, count the legs, look at the position of the legs, look at where the head is, see if there's any antenna on it. What you want to do is you want to look at its features and then see if you can match it to whatever's over here in your key. The whole point of the key is that the key is going to tell, once you identify what it is, we would know which type of these organisms prefer polluted water, and some of them prefer clean water. So when you find, I mean, you'll find everything in whatever kind of water it is, but you'll find, if you find more of things that prefer polluted water, then you know that the water is pretty polluted. And if you find more of a bigger population of creatures that are in fresh water, or in clean water rather, then you know that the stream quality is clean. And if you find a lot of polluted water, then we need to do some investigation.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
So this time of the year too, obviously the water is colder. You're going to find different macroinvertebrates that live in colder water versus as the season goes on and the temperatures of the water increase. The Jordan, for example, many of these macros will become adults and they will not be in the aquatic form as the season goes on and the temperature increases. So we will see kind of a change in the creatures that live in the Jordan throughout the summer. And it will be more towards the medium tolerant creatures and some of the low indicating species indicators.
What is up? How did you catch those?
The toad was hanging out along the stream bed in some mud, staying warm. This is an American toad. Toads have these big bumps on the back of their heads called a parotid gland that they secrete a poison from, which is what kind of helps you identify a difference between a toad and a frog. So that's this guy here, an American toad. And then this is a leopard frog. They are aquatic more than toads. They live in the water and eat insects. You can tell it's a leopard frog based off of the markings on its back and its legs, and it's got this pretty yellow color on the inside of its legs, which I believe identifies that it's a male. That color is supposed to look nice for the ladies. So we've got a frog and a toad.
How did you catch them? You just catch them with your hands, don't you?
Yeah, the toad was sitting on the stream bank. The frog I almost stepped on and he jumped in the water and then I caught him.
Mr. Sobchak, is it true that you can get warts from
That is not true. You cannot get warts from toads. Otherwise I'd be covered in them because I've caught many in my lifetime. Are you wondering, is it true if you kiss a frog, will it turn into a prince? Only one way to find out.
Okay, so we're gonna actually now start to assess our stream and see what kind of quality it has. So Anna here was with me and we collected with the team a whole bunch of different stuff that we have in our bins that you saw before. So now what we're gonna do is go through and try to figure out how many of each kind we have that fit into each category. So the first category here, this taxa 1, that means that these organisms here indicate that it's a really good stream quality. The ones in the middle here are just kind of, they'll tolerate both good and poor quality. And then also these down here, which is the aquatic worms and the black fly larvae, these are gonna be the ones that tolerate pollution. So as we go through, we had, for example, so far 4 water pennies, we had 3 stoneflies, we didn't find a riffle beetle, we had about 5 mayflies, we didn't have a Dobson fly, but we did have a caddis fly. So as we go through, we would add those up. Okay, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then we would multiply that by 3, so that is 39. Okay, and so what we would do then is go through, and as you can see already, we're doing pretty good. So we have a pretty high quality, and we would go through further on. So we have a crayfish, we have a crane fly, we have a, actually I don't see any other of those. We do have 2 leeches, an aquatic worm, and I think that's it. So we have 39 in the sensitive category, and 2 in the somewhat sensitive category, and 3 in the tolerant category. Let's see here. So our CIV index is good. So we have 44, which is obviously pretty good in this category. So good news for the Jordan.
We have a clean stream.
Woohoo! Yay!
Ladies and gentlemen, we have real actual fishermen with real fishing gear. Mr. Bryant, you want to tell us what's in these pouches you got here?
Okay, well, we got trusty power bait here. Mr. Sobchak was just saying he used that to catch some trout there. I think rainbow trout really like that.
Yeah, I used the trout bait, a classic go-to. Ball it up, stick it on your hook, and you're good to go.
It's literally called trout bait. I love it.
And we have these hemostats here to remove the hook. I always throw my fish back. I don't keep them, but Mr. Sobchak, you like to cook them up, huh?
I do keep every once in a while, and like you said, I've got my hemostats. We got our clippers here.
Clippers, yep.
Cutting your line, very important. You got your dab. This is for keeping your flies dry if you're floating atop water with fly rod.
I don't know what any of these words mean.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far yet. When I retire, that's what I'm going to be doing, fly fishing. So, and various hooks, sinkers, lures,
And a rod,
things
of
like
course.
that, and a rod, of course, and a fishing license, which you are required to have
Yes.
when you're 16 or older, I believe.
16 or older.
So you absolutely need that. And
What's in here? Is that your bait?
okay, we have some live bait, your good old red worms here. Trout love these, huh?
Oh yeah.
Not too big like the night crawlers that some people use. And then these guys are called butter worms. I'm not exactly sure what they turn into. I think they're from South America or something, the guy at the bait store was saying. But I've had a lot of luck catching trout on these guys. They call them butter worms.
So we're about to get a real live fishing lesson from some genuine mountain men. They're gonna show you how to put the bait on the hook, how to catch a fish. I don't think we're gonna catch much because the water's pretty shallow, but we're gonna pretend like we're catching fish.
So, Mr. Sobchak, since this is a pretty healthy stream, right?
Yeah.
What types of fish would we more likely catch?
Well, they'll stock it with rainbow and brook trout, so you'll see those in here. Here it's pretty shallow, so we probably won't find too many bass, but there's always a chance at some other things like some sunfish or crappies. Anything else? What do you think?
Catfish. I know we've seen babies in here,
Okay.
but since it's more of a colder water, I would think more trout
Yes, it's
than
definitely a trout
bass.
stream. Again, stocked by the Game Commission for your fishing pleasure. So go out, buy a license, and come and catch some dinner.
I've got my gear, I've got my fishing hat, and nice little stick to chew on. I'm ready to fish. Can you grunt a little louder next time? It's such a... This is how old you know somebody is. It's how loud they grunt when they're sitting up or standing down.
The butter worm on here, which you are going to have to put the hook through this larva.
Do you want it to stay alive?
Yes, you do.
Just don't pierce the head, kids.
And I'm going to try to hide the hook as much as possible so it looks just like it would naturally, floating down the river, waiting to be gobbled up. Looks tasty, doesn't it?
Looks good, Mr. Bryant. Here we have a red worm. Not too big. This hook is actually probably a little too big for this worm, but it'll work. So there's probably a whole bunch of ways that people will do this, but my preferred method is just to stick it right around the middle and make sure the hook comes all the way through. And then I like to take one other end of the worm and stick that through as well, making sure not to poke yourself. That way the worm is kind of covers the hook. Still alive, still moving in the water again, looks a little more natural to the fish and they're more interested in eating it.
So to cast this type of reel, a spinning reel, you're going to take what's called the bail here. You're going to open that up so that allows the line to flow out freely. You got to hold it down with your first finger. Now I'm a lefty, so I cast with my left hand. And then as you move your arm forward, you're just going to release this finger so the line can go out. You'll notice I have a little sinker on the end there to give it some weight. Like so. And you just flip that closed, reel in a little slack. Gotcha.
We never know if he's joking or not.
So, side pick what you got over there.
You got a worm on a hook. Same type of rod, spinning rod. So like Mr. Bryant just said, you want to hold this line, open your bail as you cast, releasing with this finger so the line goes out. And you can flip this closed or give a spin and it'll close your bail so that no more line is going out. Taking your slack, wait for a bite.
All right, I can't believe I caught one. Look at the size of this thing. Took me 10 minutes to bring it in.
That's amazing. He caught a fish.
Whoa there, Mr. Bryant, look at this.
Oh, he's got a big one over here.
Look at the bend in that rod.
Sobchak's
Oh my God.
gonna put Brian to shame.
Woo!
Look at that thing.
Look, I think it's gonna break the rod. Holy cow.
What do you get? What do you get?
Oh my
Fight
God.
it, man. Fight it.
Reel this
What do you get
thing.
in that?
You gotta, you want to wear them out. You want to tire them. You want to tire the fish out so it's easier to handle when it gets in.
Don't
You
fall.
wanna keep
Don't
rod
fall.
Tip up,
Get the net,
and you want to reel as fast as you can to get it in. So we're gonna. This is exciting, guys. I can't wait to see what we got. There's some murky water.
That's a big fish.
Can't quite see it just yet. It's getting close. Let's take a look here, guys. Looks like we got ourselves catch it in the net. Thank you. Wonderful. Let's get a close up here, guys. Oh my gosh! Would you look at that?
It's a shoe fish.
That looks like a Solomon size 9.5. Holy cow! You don't see a lot of those in this river.
Is it a smoked Solomon?
It's a smoked Solomon. Very nice. Ah, wonderful. I'm gonna take this home and
It's
share it with
amazing.
my wife.
Wait, use the identification key.
The dichotomous key for this.
Laces or no laces?
It has laces.
How many laces?
How many laces? One.
Oh, that was awesome. Do that again.
Is this how you feel when on quarantine?
We're gonna not kiss this one.
This is the rare green frog.
You can tell it's a
We
female
have one, Prince.
because the small circle behind the eye, which is the ear, called the tympanum, is smaller than its eye. If the ear is larger than the eye, that indicates a male.
That's surprising because males usually don't listen very well. Or maybe that's why they have bigger ears.
That's why they have to have the bigger ears. That's right. Green frog. Lithobates clementins,
Ooh,
I think.
I don't remember that. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, that wraps up our stream study. We obviously hope to do that with you in person. Didn't work out, but we encourage you, if your parents are okay with it, if you can get out and find a stream and grab some equipment and do your own stream study. I think it would be a great experience for you. You can even include that as part of your backyard habitat observations if Springhouse is doing that too. And I'd like to say it was great working with Springhouse folks as well. Hopefully we'll actually do this for real next year.
Carry you home everywhere you look. Everywhere you look. Because I found out.